Well, hello. It is early in the morning. It is not even 8 a.m. yet. I'm still in my pajamas. I still got coffee. Yes, this is Leatherface. I got it at Spirit Halloween because Spirit Halloween is my home. Last week I didn't read a lot at the beginning of the week. By the end of the week, I might say probably by about Wednesday, I was reading about a book a day. But at the beginning of the week, it was going a little bit slower. I am kind of getting back into it a little bit, which is funny how that always works out. I tend to read more when I'm busier. Like when I was on vacation for a week, I only read one book. But now that school's starting again in less than a month, we're cranking them out. All right. Let's talk. I read 5 books this past week. Uh, did I care about many of? Not really. I didn't care about many of them. I've been reading a lot from like a deep book wall, like books that I've had so long that I don't even have a receive date in them. So I've owned these books for over 5 years. Um, and a lot of those I was just like grabbing from the library for free. So a lot of them I don't really care about. But the first one was pretty fun. It is more recent. I did receive it this year. And that is The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. And I have been enjoying my Brandon Sanderson lately. This book follows this guy who wakes up having time travel to medieval England, and he kind of has to figure out who he is and what's going on there because it's a science fiction story more than anything. It does have fantasy elements. He is in medieval England, which is traditionally quite fantasy, but it is mostly a science fiction story. And science fiction is still the genre that I'm just kind of like not a big fan of. Like, I just not a huge fan of science fiction. In a lot of ways, there are some science fiction stories that I can enjoy, especially if they have horror elements to it. Like The Luminous Dead was like a science fiction with horror elements, or like Annihilation, science fiction with horror elements. I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to try to justify what Annihilation was, but those 2 books I enjoyed, and this one I really liked. It does have a certain humor to it that I think a lot of people don't really like all that much. It's very millennial. But I still watch Dan and Phil, so I'm still very well versed in millennial humor. I'm an older Gen Zer. I was born in 1997, so it's like I'm on the cusp. So I don't mind the millennial humor. All right. It was fine. It was relatively funny. I thought it was a good time. It's quick. It's short. It is probably the closest thing to like a quick, short, little fun thing that Brandon Sanderson has ever come out with. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. It does have some fun artwork in the beginning here. I think on the end papers and the back end paper as well. Like all like Brandon Sanderson hardcovers tend to have. They're all very pretty. Standard underneath. It does have illustrations and stuff throughout. It's a fun time. I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I reread a Stephen King book, and that is Night Shift. So Night Shift is a set of short stories. It had a lot of classics in it, like Children of the Corn is in this one. So is Graveyard Shift and The Mangler, and those ones maybe aren't classics, but I think of them as classics. It also has really interesting, almost previews to books like The Stand, like Night Surf. I really like Night Surf. It's very like introspective. Night Surf takes place in like a world where like a super flu has taken over and everybody's pretty much dying and dead, and it's just a group of like teenagers hanging out together, and it's kind of sad. It's melancholic. But no, this is a really good collection. I do think that Stephen King, when it comes to short story collections, they tend to be pretty well done. My favorite I think is probably still Skeleton Crew. My top 3 are Skeleton Crew, Night Shift, and Everything's Eventual. And Night Shift is very fun. It's very fun. It's goofy at times. Stuff like the fucking Mangler. The Mangler is goofy as hell, and I love it for that. But no, it's a fun time. It was a fun read. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. All right, next I read my least favorite book of the week. That is The Soul of Anna Klein by Terrell Meidner. Okay, so this book right here. This book is about this guy who's got a genius 8-year-old daughter, and they find out that she's got this tumor in her brain. The daughter says, this 8-year-old says that she can construct the blood vessel that's feeding the tumor and starve it out, and then she'll be fine. The doctors are like, "You're 8, we're gonna do surgery." However, when they do surgery, they kill the soul, and then the dad kills his daughter, and that literally happens in the first like fourth of the book. The rest of the book is like trial. It's the trial of this guy And this book was pretty boring and kind of weird. And then I go and I look at the copyright page, and it is copyright the Church of Physical Theology. And I don't know much about the Church of Physical Theology, but it sounds like this is some kind of cult propaganda. That's my thought. That's my thought without doing any research into it. So I could be wrong, but generally, when things are copyright to a church, there's some kind of propaganda. I'm not gonna say anything else. But 1.5 stars. Not worth it on a story level, even if you can get past the church thing. All right, Starman by Alan Dean Foster. This is a novelization of a movie I've never seen, and I read the book anyway because it was in the book wall. It is about this extraterrestrial being that crashes in Wisconsin, takes the form of a woman's dead husband, and then they go on a road trip. That's what happens. As far as novelization goes, it wasn't poorly written. Like I said, I've never seen the movie. I followed it fine. I do think that a lot of the character work is reliant on the movie, especially for minor characters. And since I've never seen the movie, these minor characters really meant nothing to me. But I'm sure it's different if you have seen the movie. John Carpenter did the movie, which, like, I know John Carpenter. I think he's a fun director. But yeah, no, it was fine. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it wasn't poorly written. I could follow it just fine, but I have no emotional connection to the story. All right, then I read an interesting one. That is Mr. and Mrs. Bojo Jones by Anne Head. I do want to say that my copy is missing about 15 pages. There's a part here, pages 55 through 68 are gone. They just fell out. So I hope nothing important happened in those 50 pages because I didn't read them. So this book, it follows this girl, and she is from a very kind of upper class family. And she starts kind of going out, not consistently, but kind of sporadically with this young man. And his name is Bojo Jones, which is a hilarious name. And he's like the first in his family that I think is going to be able to go to college. He's a football star, but then she gets pregnant, and they both have to drop out of school so that they can get married. This book is from 1967, and I think you can tell that just because that's their first reaction. Like, there's no other talking about it. I think at one point somebody does mention an abortion, but it's very much not seen as a viable thing by the main character. And this book did have a whole lot of emotion in it. There was a lot going on, and you could definitely really tell. Our main character, July, both these characters had really stupid names, so that was kind of the theme in like 60s way. Everybody had really stupid names. July, she was very emotional about this whole thing. Like, she felt very lonely a lot of the time, and because they live in this little like garage apartment, and she doesn't work because it's 1967, and so she's so bored all day. It's because like there's only so much you can clean in a small garage. It's like a 2-room apartment, and they fought a lot. They were both kind of awful, and it was really interesting. I thought I had a lot to say. Unfortunately, it is missing 14 pages. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It surprised me. Currently, I'm about 100 pages into Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This is my first time reading this book. It is a satire. It's pretty funny. I'm kind of enjoying it right now. I can see our Lord of the Flies parallels. But yeah, no, I hope to continue on my streak of finishing a book a day, so that I would finish this book today, which would be great. Maybe if I get real spicy, I could finish 2 books. Who knows what the book wall will give me next. That's the thing. If it gives me like a manga or something really small, I could finish 2 books. Or depending on how my to-do list pans out, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, there's that. Although I will say this is a nice nice wrap up because I'm not adding anything to my shelves except for the Brandon Sanderson book. But yeah, this is the last what I read last week. This is what I read last week. That's everything. I'll talk to you later, and goodbye.